Today we're making a bum bag. The bag features darts on each corner for more volume, a zipped pocket in the back. You tie up the bag with a buckle snap clip. Let me remove all the clothes I used to fill up the bag and show you the inner pocket with a snap button. And as you might have noticed, the bag is fully lined. I also made this version in a marine soft shell, which is a great fabric that doesn't require lining since the inside is nice and soft and it doesn't fray. And at the back, I sewed the zipper with a more advanced technique than the one I'm showing in this tutorial. I'll provide you with the appropriate pattern pieces so you can sew it that way if you prefer and know how to. And that's pretty much it. So let's get started with sewing. So let me show you the front parts of the pattern. So you have here the shell in dark green, and these are the inner parts. In between these two parts, we're gonna have the zipper that's gonna be sewed, and same here for the lining. Then inside we have the back of the bag on which we're going to be sewing a pocket. I've already folded the edges here so they're not raw. Here I already took out my snap button kit and I'm going to be putting a button here. And I have here a bit of padding, which is optional. In case you're like me, you like your bags to have a little bit of shape so that it doesn't collapse onto itself, and this is going to be coming in the back of this layer. These are now the back parts. So I still have this piece which I've cut only once, but I show it to you again because it's kind of included in the front and in the back. It's like the interface between both. I have another time this part, which so has been cut twice in total. This is gonna be the back with the shell and the lining. We're gonna have a little zipper in the back. The length should be 25 centimeters long. Mine is a bit longer. It's okay, I'm just gonna be cutting it. This is the inside. We have here the sides of the bag which are going to be holding the straps. I have here a strap that's 3 centimeters wide. For the strap, you have the possibility of choosing different measurements. You don't have to take 3 centimeters wide. I'm giving this part in several measurements, and also you can just adapt them by yourself by, retracing it once you got the logic behind it. We've got a little bit of bias tape to cover up the seams in the inside at the end. And this is my, I don't know what you call that, clip, I guess, which is of course adapted to the measurement of the strap. So I'm going to be starting with the inner pocket that's in the front. I've already traced a line here 1 centimeter from the edge, and I've folded twice like so, and I've also pressed down. And now I'm gonna do a line here. So I've just used my Japanese ruler and a normal pen to draw a line here 2 centimeters from the edge, as you can see, and then I folded twice and I pressed with my hot iron. And now I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna sew here this line using my sewing machine, and then I'm gonna lay it over, respecting the middle, like that. Also, I'll make sure that it's really straight. It's 5 centimeters from the edges on both sides, and then I'm gonna sew here on the sides, both sides. So now I'm going to pin the pocket in its placement on the back pocket, making sure it's straight. I put some pins here and there, I don't know if you can see them, to make sure it's straight. I change presser foot. I'm gonna take this one. are the seams on the sides, the other side, and here at the bottom as well in the seam allowance, as I said. And now I'm going to add a snap button here in the middle, and for this purpose I'm actually going to be reinforcing the area here of this layer where I'm going to be putting the button, because this layer is kind of thin. The fabric isn't very dense nor strong, so I'm going to be putting some layers depending on what I have in the trash. Okay. Okay, so that's what I got after putting my button. It's slid a little bit towards the top so that it goes a bit beyond this line, which, well, is not ideal, but it's okay. And here is what I put in the back to strengthen everything. I'm gonna cut this off. Right, that's it for the front inner pocket. So now I'm gonna take care of the zipper, which is gonna come here. Actually, I'm gonna use some scrap that I have to add a little bit of fabric at the end here of the zipper, because I don't really like the way it looks when the zipper finishes right on the edge of the fabric. I'm gonna show you on another example that I made. So this is another one that I made using some soft shell, which I think is a really good choice of fabric, which allows you to not put lining everywhere. So this is one end, which I think is fine, but this is the other end. Yeah, I don't really like this. I don't know, maybe I'm just being picky. It's not a big deal, you can do it like that, but I'd rather put a little bit of fabric here to reinforce this area and hide. See, it's not so elegant. So I'll put my fabric like that, I'll sew here, and then I'll just flip it, and that'll be it, and then I'll cut it all around. So I actually flipped it directly, and I'm gonna sew here. Okay, so I have trimmed this part so it's a bit cleaner, and now it's time for you to decide on which end you want the little pull here to be. I'm gonna put it on the right side of the bag because I know that's better for my personal use. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna pin the zipper on one side. I purposefully have it stick out a little bit. I'm gonna pin all the way till the end here. So I've put a lot of pins here. If you're courageous and experienced, you can already take the lining and you can put it here, pin it so that all 3 layers are pinned together. That's gonna save you time for later, but right now I'm doing the longer but easier method. I'm just gonna sew these 2 layers together, then I'm gonna remove the pins, and then I will add this layer, and I'm gonna put pins and I'm gonna sew again. Alright, this is what I get. Now, put it back like this. I'm gonna add my lining. If you have a right side and a wrong side for the lining, then you want to put the lining right side down so that when you open, the right side is up. And now I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna pin the layers together. And this is what we get. And on the other side, went a bit astray here, but yeah. I have just realized that this is really ugly here and that I should have put another piece of fabric to hide this area on the other side and make it really clean like that and not sew here. So I'm gonna fix this because I don't like shitty details. I'm gonna reopen here just the end, and then I'm gonna sew this, and then I'm gonna close this on top. Okay, it took me some time, but I have fixed this little issue that I had. I covered this area here. My seam is not so straight. So the top comes as such. I'm gonna sew it on the other side of the zipper, right sides together. So my fabric's got identical sides. But if yours doesn't, then the right sides should be touching. Okay, so I have actually pinned the lining and the shell all at once, and I'm just gonna sew them together. Okay, so now I can open the layers. There we go. And I will top stitch here all along the edge. I have finished top stitching up here and it went quite well this time. This is the outside, this is on the inside. Okay, now we're going to separate the layers and we're going to sew the corners like this, right sides together. Now I'm going to turn the thing inside out. I'm going to fold them in opposite direction so there's not too much bulk. I am going to pin the two layers together and I'm going to sew them in the seam allowance just so that they don't move when we add them to the other part later. Just like that, in the seam allowance all around. This needs to be cut, just know. That's it for the very front part. These are the back parts. This is the shell and this is the lining. That's coming at the back of the shell. That's why it's exactly basically the same parts. I had previously showed you different parts, but I updated it and now this is what you're gonna have in the sewing pattern. I took a zipper that's 30 centimeters long, but you don't have to. It's a bit too long. 25 centimeter is gonna be good. I'm gonna remove the tag. I'm going to place this here. I'm going to take also the opposite one, which I'm going to place right sides together. The right side is against the zipper on both sides. You want to place it in the middle. The zipper is narrower than the patches, so you want to place the zipper in the middle. You want to pin and you want to sew. Actually, we want to sew right here. We only want to respect 1 centimeter of seam allowance. So I'm going to remove this bit so that we really have 1 centimeter here of seam allowance. Okay, this is what I get. Let's check that the measurements are respected here. I'm just going to pin this. Wait a second. Obviously, what am I doing? This must go to the other side. I'm gonna sew 1 centimeter from the edge of this little strip. I'm gonna just draw a line because I'm not sure I can respect that without drawing a line. I need to add this one on the opposite side, like this, and this, I don't know if you have this on the way. And I'm gonna sew again, actually on top of this seam. Okay, so I'm done with the two parts here at the extremities of the zipper. This is pinned, and if I turn it, it's gonna look like this later on. I'm just gonna go ahead and already pin the lining here, and then I'm gonna be sewing all 3 layers, respecting 1 centimeter of seam allowance. You can press it down if you like. Meanwhile, we need to do the top part, and it's gonna go in the same way. Pin it like this, and then right sides together, you add this layer. So you got 3 layers here. Pin all 3 layers and then sew, respecting 1 centimeter of seam allowance. The lining, and on the other side we've got the back of the bag. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to press down and then I'm going to top stitch. This is what I get once I have top stitched around my zipper here in the back. That's on the right side of the fabric, and this is on the lining. We're gonna move on to preparing these parts that are coming here on the sides and that are attaching the bag to the straps. This is the first version that I made, the first draft, which is made of a soft shell, which spared me the step of having to put lining, and I haven't yet sewed the bias tape inside to cover up the seam allowances. I planned for a little bit too much of this strap, so I'm gonna measure up how much I use in order to not waste material this time. And so the measurements that I'm going to give are going to be based on my measurements. If you are bigger, then you might want to add some length depending on your case. So I just measured up, and this part that's going to be bearing this side of the clasp, I'm going to make it 37 centimeters long, including seam allowances, and this part I'm going to make it 34 centimeters long. I'm going to burn the extremities of the straps and this is really annoying when it happens. One centimeter from the side. It's actually already in the pattern to make the notches, but I didn't make the notches, so I'm just gonna make them now. I'm gonna do them, see how it's gonna fit then in between, like this. I'm gonna take one of these. So for me, both sides are the same, but for you, right side up and touching here, place it in the middle. It's gotta be straight. Then we take another piece, place it on top, sandwich the strap, and we're going to sew along the 3 edges here. Okay. This is what I'm getting. You have the possibility, if you like, to top stitch all around. So now I'm gonna do the other one. So we've got this part that will go to the longer piece. That was 37 centimeters long. And this part that's going to the shorter piece, which was 34. It's gonna be pretty straightforward. I'm just gonna make that way. And that's pretty much it, like that. And for the other piece, this goes like this, comes back bottom that way. There we go. And here again, we fold twice. And I'm gonna sew here. What I get. Voilà. Okay, so I'm going to take this part and I'm going to be attaching the straps. This comes here with this part on top, and this comes on the opposite side with this part hidden. Okay, and I'm going to be pinning here right sides together. So I'm going to be sewing here in the seam allowance, and on the other side, same story. I'll pin in between the notches and I sew in the seam allowance. That's one side. What I get here. Okay, so I have just attached here the straps to the side of the front piece of the bag. And now I'm going to focus on these parts here. So we have my back with the zipper, to which I'm going to be adding a back lining here, like this, right sides together. When I will sew here on the edge and open, this will create a pocket. This, I'm going to be adding my sort of foam panel, and on top of this, the inside of the front part of the bag with the pocket. I'm going to be laying all these parts nicely on top of one another, and I'm going to be sewing all of them here in the seam allowance. So I have sewed all these layers together. If I open here, we have now a closed pocket. I had to do it several times in several batches because it was creating irregularities. I didn't like that. This is coming with the shell facing upwards. Here we're gonna open the front, we're going to reverse it, and we're going to sew basically right sides together, sewing all around here. Alright, so this is what I have. I have sewed in my seam allowance. The only reason why I'm sewing in the seam allowance is because I'm going to be adding some bias all around, and the bias should be sewed 1 centimeter from the edge, respecting the seam allowance, and that way it's going to cover up all these seams. So I'm going to apply the bias all around the bag. For this purpose, I need to get this prior to pinning the bias tape, so I'm going to do that. So I was gonna use this bias, but I realized that it's a bit too narrow. This one is 1 centimeter wide, and I don't think it's wide enough. So I'm gonna use this one, and it's 1.5 centimeter wide. That should be better. So I just put long pieces to start with here, all the way here. done. I have done this line here. Now I'm gonna put the bias on the wrist. And this is how I negotiated this angle. It's not particularly clean or pretty, but it's thin side, so I'm not gonna bother much more. Okay, this is what I get. All right, now I'm going to turn this thing inside out. So if I open, I have an inner pocket. Inside is covered in bias. We have here this little piece of fabric that we put at the beginning, which is useful. No, it's fine. And at the back pocket, lined. Everything is very, very clean. Yep. That's it, you guys. I really hope you liked it, and I'll see you soon for another video. Bye. You take care.